Hello, this is not a tutorial, this is just a project overview, so I could go over and explain how I did stuff uh, just in general. So let's begin here. This is the color code, so anything with the color red, it's an error. Same goes for the rest. Um, so let's dive in. Double click on the books geo. Regarding the color coding, for example, green, that's anything related to animation or time. So if we press U, you go back up. See, time, animated. Not important is in the gray area. So gray, that's gray. So anything on this side is just experiments or attempts, things that uh, haven't made it into the project. So never mind that on the side. If you wanna check it out, you could. So let's that's the main graph right here. Let's look at this. So it's the same book stack. I just used it 4 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So and let's make a copy. So we've got those parameters on the side. Total 18. I could add or remove, and it'll adjust. That's the order. If you want it to be randomized or not. Seed, you could change seed, rotate, flip. Some of them will flip. Delete from the end or from the start. Stack type. So the stack type will tell it if you want to go up or sideways. So that we could go sideways. So this here, I think, yeah. So don't use the rotate on the side ones. Bend. Okay, so this is just a line, and I'm copying the books to the points on that line, and now I'm bending the line so the books will bend with it. If you're new to Houdini, this is a weird concept. Everything in Houdini works with points. So see, there's points here and point numbers. So each point in space has a number, and you can access those points in the geometry spreadsheet right here. You could see their positions and everything related to them. So we can control. You have ultimate control. You can do whatever, because you know where each point in space exactly at what time. And let's look at one more option right here. There's this slanting option, and you could add how many or how much. Yeah, you could totally break it, so be careful with it. It's usually those smaller books that get me. I need to do the math right on this one. Anyways, so we like our setup. We did 4 of them, and you could afterwards deform them. This is if we go in. This is using a lattice. Your good old lattice, just bound box on top, and you edit the bound box, you move the points, and that's the lattice right here. So it'll deform how we deform the overall box around it, and reduce the poly count just for game development sake. Soften, and right here, that's the light map. I had to add this one for Unreal Engine because it was giving me some issues with the light map in Engine. I had to make one in Houdini, and in the end, that's you apply the textures right here. We could see let's see the UVs. So they're all stacked on top of each other. These are the book covers right here. These are the papers, and down here are these beige color. I mainly put these down there because of the that edge right here. The UVs they're a bit crazy there, so I just put them all down here with a one color strip. So that's why you have them here on this side too. No one would notice. It looks totally normal. Some books have that side thing. So, and I could optimize this way by just stacking a bunch of books in here instead of taking the whole canvas. And let's see the paper vellum sim for vertex animated textures. Could play it, and all of them will try and go and sit in one spot. So here on this side, this thing didn't make it into the project. So, but you could check it out if you want. That's the structures. That's the barn structure. If we press on this one, we'll visualize it. So that's the barn right here. Let's go in. So anything with gray is not important, so you could dismiss that. If you want to check it out, you could. So let's look here. That's the barn. If you want to know more about it, you could double click and dive in and see the mess in here. I tried to organize it as best as I could. It's mainly two types of HDAs. It's a roof and a module. So there's this module right here that makes the modules, all like this whole front area, the door. These are separate meshes, and they're just, this one is just copied all around. So and in this way I could model all of them at once in one of them, and change the parameters on the side, and I'll have different ones. Same goes for the other one, the roof one. I've got different types of roofs, and the front end too. And once I'm happy with the parameters, I could just copy it and use it again to get a different shape, and they'll all merge. And this setup here would put them respectively with respect to each other, so that they can build up this this shape right here. And you have different parameters for this one too, for the placement of the different modules. So it's not actually duplicating or making up new shapes. It's reusing the same shapes, but in different ways. We could change it, and it'll yeah, get smaller or even bigger, whatever you prefer. So you have some control here. We have the side, we could increase it or decrease it. It's everything is just being instanced, and you can put it in engine, and it should work if you bake it into a blueprint or something. So for this next part right here, that's the wires. So these are just a bunch of points in space, and they snap to the interior of the barn, and you'll immediately have an animation on it swinging back and forth, and we could export that into engine and just play it right there. We could even go back and change the size of the barn, and the wires will update depending on the points inside of it. It'll snap to them. We could okay, you get the idea. They're just inside. Could change it and the wires will update. Okay. That's all for this one. Up to the next. Let's go over the props now. So in this file, you could find the character, the core, arcade machines, the wood destruction stuff, and big wires, farming tools. So let's dive into the robot first. That's the big one. So you could see it's destroyed right there on the ground. That's because it's playing that animation. It's just a falling simulation with DOPs, and now I'm just playing it backwards. Okay. So how did I do this this thing? Let's go back up. So in here, that's the first part. I got a ZBrush sculpt for later here to retopple. Okay, we could go right there. That's the blue part. That's an object merge. It's referencing the same part from that other file right here. So back up in here, we could see it there. So topple build, I retopple by hand in Houdini to get this shape, and from that you could mirror, and anything with red is either an error or a non-procedural. In this case, it's non-procedural. So, and I'm selecting groups, different groups, and doing an operation on them, which is extrude and assigning some groups so that we could later UV them separately and UV layout wherever I want them. So same goes for this side, that side, and we could totally at any point in time we could just see this shape right here. We could, let's say, this one. I don't like this part right here. I could head back here and deselect some parts. and hit enter, and there you go. So all I'm doing is I'm selecting and deselecting faces, extruding them, and assigning them to different parts of the UV area. On this side, same thing, same idea. We get more shapes. Making a character like that, to give it some depth, you need multiple layers that go in and out. That'll give it depth. It's a cheap trick, but you keep doing that enough times, it'll look complicated. But looking at each part on its own is not. It's not the most complicated thing. And this area right here, that's all made in Houdini. No retopo, no nothing. Just a bunch of extra shapes to fill in the gaps. And here I just added different colors so I could tell it where I want you to go on the UV spreadsheet. Yeah, there we go. Different parts. Okay. And in here I've added the back part. This here. That's the back part. Same idea. We referenced the base mesh. But this time, instead of using groups, I decided to go ahead and use a topo build on each one. This way I could just delete any of them at any point. I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about having one topo build and selecting in case I didn't like the retopo on that topo build. I'm stuck with the topology and I'm only controlling groups. It's a good way to optimize the graph, I guess, if you want to just use one topo build, because topo builds are a bit expensive, because Houdini is storing positions of points in space in a destructive manner. But that's why using groups would be a better option if you're trying to optimize your file. But I mean, just go ahead and use a bunch of them and hope Houdini wouldn't crash. It shouldn't. It's robust for the most part. That's the spine. It's the same shape, but copied to this line right there. Okay. We could control the orientation on the spine. Anyways, I don't need to dive that deep. You could go ahead and explore each part of the graph, but let's keep going. We have the wires here. So this is a big one. So first off, I made this just one curve, and with this HDA it'll turn that curve into a bunch of curves that are curving around each other. This is mainly for that strangler's vine thing. And down here in the yellow frame, you could see how I used a resample, a carve node, to just keep the wires moving on top of the big wires, and as they move they go sideways too, so you'll have a natural feel. Yeah, so they'll follow the lines, and at the same time they'll kind of jiggle around. Okay. And if you want to check out that HDA tool thing, you could go ahead and dive right in. There's a bunch of stuff in here. And in the end we have the cloth. Okay, so it's just a grid with just deleted some parts of it and constrained it to a wood plank, and with Vellum Solver it'll just do the thing with wind and some gravity and all that. Time warp, so I could tell it exactly I want you from 1 to 7, yes, just 60 frames, and keep looping. That'll be it. Okay. So let's check out some different part of the graph. Oh yeah, on this side that's the DOP network for the simulation of the robot falling down. So it's referencing some parts of this graph right here, so they're right next to each other. Okay, for the other part of the graph right here, we have the power grid. This is gonna take a while. We've got the power turbine thing, and it's rigged so they'll move opposite each other, and they're using bones in here. You could see them right there, and if we dive right in this one, that's the graph for it. It's mainly just some basic modeling techniques, but there's a lot of them. And in here, these are the small glowy bits, and you could play the animation there. We could see it. Yeah, so it's a bunch of lines with points on them, and the balls are just copied to the points. This is just the one part that's broken. I mainly made this for the cinematic. You probably wouldn't do it this way for video games. And it's using that one RBD material fracture, so it'll turn this into that thing, and then just move it around, destroy it, delete some parts, UV it, and call it done. Okay, big wires. It's same thing I use for the strangler vines in the other one. Arcade machines, just a basic modeling thing in with nodes. Farming tools, yeah. You've got some parameters here I exposed. You could for the hay if you wanna change them and see whatever you see fit. Okay, and in for this one, that's the rake. Yeah, it's just also some basic modeling, but you have a bunch of options, so you could change the size of it or anything, and it's laid out to, okay, that's the light map, but it lays out to trim, and you could whenever you change the shape, the UVs would update with it too. So that's the best part about Houdini, modeling in Houdini at least. Yeah, just another bunch of different curving around each other with some min pause, a minimum position to snap to the shape underneath them. And that'll be it for this project. Uh, I hope this was insightful, and thank you.